I'm impressed by this guy, very impressed.
It's another night of museum in Lotus, and we are, as last week, we are in the Qing Dynasty still, right, Mr. Giuseppe De Gio. So we know that in these episodes, in this series, we'll be talking about collections, antiques that were not for sale, but great antique pieces, and then good lens to actually peer into Master world of feng shui arts. You know, today, even though with this George III table here, it kind of feels that, you know, the camera angle let me feel that as if like it's a news broadcasting. because I can finally rest my hands without all the other stuff. It feels like news broadcasting. But I'm glad that I'm a news broadcasting on a antique table somewhere, right? Do you know what has happened to the last signboard or signage that we talked about last week?
What has happened?
We talked about it.
Yes.
The 义海复香, the one that talks about the sea of art is giving out fragrance to the whole world, right? I already hang it in the art gallery. Once you enter my gallery, you can see that thing there. And remember that the calligraphy itself, the board might have been done later, but the calligraphy was written during Yongzhen's era, which means it was 1734, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, oh my God, all these numbers. I feel like going back to school again. Tonight, we are still staying in the Qing Dynasty because nowadays air tickets are very expensive, so we are staying in one period longer, like we spent 1 month in England. We're going to dig everything out of England before we leave England again. So last week we were in Qing Dynasty. Today we continue to be in Qing Dynasty. You know, I was doing my research this afternoon and yesterday. I intended to write some notes for tonight's episode, but as I was reading up, I stopped. I couldn't write any more notes because one of the persons we're going to talk about today, which makes tonight's show, I would say, if in time to come, people will ask me, of the many episodes that we did for Museum in Lotus, which one might be the most memorable one, I might say that this is one of the top. Because one of the figures we're going to talk about, this historical persona, this person, it's grander than life. I don't even know how to put him in pages. Right? The word today, it might be say that he's a controversial figure per se, but you know, if you study about him, and we are so fortunate to have with us today, we're going to cover that in the second part of the show, his writings, his calligraphy immortalized on the signboard behind me. You know, just talking about this makes me sweat, you know, because he's such a grand character. People who have seen him in drama, people who have seen him, people talk about him, but we have something that is from him today, which makes tonight's episode very, very exciting and interesting. Am I right? Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a very, very interesting figure, very deep. Again, for all the roles that he had, controversial. But the Western eye see him really like very important statesman.
Right, they call him the Bismarck of China.
Yes.
Am I right? So this guy, I think I just shared and I said that we're going to talk about Li Hongzhang today. Those of us might know who he is. So friends, you have here, and I think it's really something that's a super eye-opener. It's a super eye-opener. I mean, you see, for many episodes we've been talking about antiques and wonderful. We try to incorporate antiques into our gallery. That's why it's the Museum in Lotus. Like, you know, the wonderful Buddha that's right in front of us now, fully gilded with gold. And this wonderful Cambodian Buddha as well, super heavy. I told them, no, if you move this, you will never find the strength to move this again. They belong to particular eras, important, significant. The unfortunate thing sometimes is that we do not know who we belong to. For instance, this George III table. It must have belonged to an important family, or the William IV chairs. And the decanters we love so much. I have removed the decanters from the table because I don't trust you all. I scared you all might break it, yes. They must have belonged to important families. And you know, the last thing we had, the cutlery for fish, that is from the Edward VII? No.
Edward VII.
Yes, perfectly. Yeah, Edward VII.
1923.
Yes, Edward VII era. We can see there's a family emblem there that has a shell or something like that, but it wasn't to the extent that we can decipher who exactly it belonged. So the thing about Chinese is that Chinese they love to write history. So a lot of the history of different countries, they are written by Chinese. And starting with the signboard last week, we already know that calligraphy was written by this person called Ling Xu, who was the chairman, the head of the department that's in charge of rites and rituals which makes it all the more important. And today we are going to talk about this grand person. This person today is called Li Hongzhang. It's like, I don't even know how to talk about him. I graduated from Peking University. I studied Chinese, arts, history, literature, and all this stuff. And by the time, so two things might happen. By the time you go to Qing Dynasty, because the schedule is overrun, because you talk about our dynasty too much.
Yes.
And by the time you say, okay, let's just quickly brush through and especially the end of Qing Dynasty, let's just quickly run through it. So not much was to mention about it. Second thing was that because it's such a difficult character and period to talk about, are you going to say that Li Hongzhang did a great job that would legitimize the Qing Empire, and then it would put down the Republic or the People's Republic now? So it's very difficult, and people tend to escape from this topic all the time. But I hope with today's episode, which I think is really significant, is either they turn off the aircon, if not that this guy is very something because it makes me sweat when talking about him. It's fine, yeah, it's fine. We will get to look into his life, his era, and of course from that about mastering feng shui art as well. But before that, of course, welcoming friends online. Yvonne, Tong Chi Hong, say hi to you. Eileen is with us. Yvonne has tagged friends. Geraldine Xia, Ashley as well. Ashley, Andy is with us. So 我们今天要讲的是李鸿章 and 真的是很重要这个事情 really. Before that, before we talk about this 牌匾匾额 signage behind us, which is written by Li Hongzhang, I'm not sure whether maybe later they will show you that his name is right there, staring at us. We have something else that is also no less interesting, very interesting.
Very interesting.
When I spoke with Mr. Pino about it, I was very excited about it because this is really something that you might have seen it in dramas before, but we have it with us now, and I think it's just stunning.
It's a little piece of art, not only for the execution, but for the symbolism and for the technique.
Yes.
And it's really something special. So
the one behind you.
It's just, I was trying to hide it, but I...
Okay, on camera we can see that it's actually behind, the two things. It's behind Mr. Pino. We will definitely need the other camera to actually avoid the light. So this is the one behind Mr. Pino. Can we have the camera on that? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, there we have it. This, what is this thing?
I mean, this is an amazing, as they technically call it, it's a Mandarin square. What is a Mandarin square? And we will try to analyze the use. We will try to analyze the significance. And we will try to also analyze the technique and what is it in terms of embroidery, because this is all embroidered.
Right.
First of all, as you mentioned, we are in the Qing period. We have left UK, we have taken a flight, we've landed in China, and around us we are overwhelmed by beautiful things. But tonight it's not only about things, it's also about statesmen, and Mr. Khan is going to introduce and go in depth and allow us to better understand this controversial
I try because
figure.
It's a heavy topic. It's a heavier topic. I try, yeah.
But in museums, and tonight we are in the Museum of Lotus, it's not only about objects, it's about presenting history.
Right.
And that is special here, because in this kind of environment where there are some spectacular pieces and arts and beautiful painting by Master Yun,
yes,
we're discussing history, and possibly in 100 years, there will be somebody, and I hope that really happens, who will be discussing about Master Yun's abilities, capabilities of rendering his thoughts through a brush and again through everything that he feels or he has felt in this execution of this wonderful calligraphies, but not only calligraphies, we also have his paintings.
Right.
But let's analyze, and I hope my position does not disturb the viewing of this square Mandarin.
This is really something.
It's really beautiful.
I jaw dropped when we were talking about this thing.
So let me just start. It's Qing, so that means this is the 19th century. And this wonderful piece was actually referencing to officials. Now, interestingly enough, in China, during the Qing dynasty, there were two sort of categories of officials, and there were the civil official and the military official.
They didn't have that back in Europe, no?
No.
Really?
It did not exist.
Because for the Chinese, it's a very natural thing. Since history, there is history, it has been divided into these two categories.
As you say that, I would actually say yes, there is. If you see especially the military, okay, through the various badges that they will wear, it will be possible to distinguish who is a high general from who is a colonel, who's a captain, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So there is something corresponding, but it's not about beauty. Here, instead, in the world of China and the Qing dynasty, everything had to have, that's my viewing, a reference to culture, a reference to art, and a reference to something which was elaborate. It's not that anybody could have made that. This was an expert embroidered who would have been able, I'm sorry, I don't pronounce it well, who would have been able to achieve this. And there weren't thousands of them at this level here.
Yes.
So when we look at this badge,
I hope they can get a closer look for this thing,
we can actually reference it to a military. And what is the difference between the badges that were or better, the Mandarin squares that were referred to the civilian rather than the military? It was about this one particular symbolism. Civilians had the birds, which were contained in the Mandarin Square.
Okay.
No birds instead for the military.
Right.
They were animals of extreme courage, and they could have been real animal or mythical animals. So that was the main element that would distinguish one versus the other.
Right. I just wanted to clarify for them. I mean, let me put it in perspective. You are saying that this thing framed up behind you, not Master Yun's painting, the one next to it, it's what you call a Mandarin square.
Yes.
You mentioned that it's like a badge that they wear.
Yes.
And Qing Empire.
Yes.
And that means that this is what Mr. Pino is saying, that we have with us tonight. This thing that is behind Mr. Pino, it's one of the if you watch period drama enough, is when they go to court. The guanfu, the official robe, and the official robe they have, this little piece of Mandarin square, no wonder they call it Mandarin square, this little piece of square that's in front of them.
Yes.
And it will show their rank. And we have with us today, this Mandarin square, we call it 那个官服的卜卦, because they have the official robe, and then they have this thing that appears, if I'm right, this is just half of it, right?
This is just half of it.
But then they have buttons to actually put it, so they wear it like that, and they go into court. So you might not know everyone in court, but you look at that guy, and you look at this thing, or look at his hat, you know that what his ranks and what his merits, all this are. And Mr. Pino is saying that this guanfu de Pugua, this Mandarin square, belongs to the martial officers, generals.
Yes.
Because in Chinese, I mean, for us, as I mentioned, history started, it's always yin and yang, so left and right, you know, day and night, sun and moon. She brought a sun and moon series. It's about wen and wu. It's about literati or civil officers, and wu guan, which is the what do you call that, you know, the martial officers, the generals. So it's literati, and it's always about this two. And to rule the country, you will need both of this. We have with us this thing here.
It's in immaculate condition. It's very, very beautiful. Now, this particular piece of art has been embroidered with a special technique. It's called the Peking knot. And that was only one of the 4 knots known in China. Now, let me tell you, I come from the West. I was born in the West. And when anybody tries to compare the embroidery that we see here, which is the Peking embroidery, to anything that we have in Europe, the closest would be the French embroidery. But let me also add something to you. When you compare a similar design, one with the Peking knot and the other one with the so-called French knot, it's just like the night and the day.
Heaven and earth.
I mean, this is absolutely spectacular.
I'm definitely going to have this Mandarin Square in the gallery for quite a while because it's Chinese, number one. Second, it really means something. And you really come close to look at the artwork that is the workmanship, you know.
And when you do come, and I hope that Mr. Khan will make available the magnifying glass.
Right.
Please look at with the magnifying glass. A world opens up to your eyes, and the sense of appreciation, the use of the colors, the wonderful embroidery, and what the embroidery is actually rendering and showing to you.
Right.
Now, I will tell you that I'd like to analyze this from the base.
Okay.
And then we would see actually a sort of gold thread all around. And then after this thread, we will see a beautiful border. And this border is in blue, silk blue, where you see 2 symbols. One is the symbol of a bat. Now, when the Chinese pronounce this word, it sounds like something else, and that is happiness. Then we have the shoe, and that is the symbolism of long life. So imagine, it's a repetition of the bat and the shoe all over from the bottom to the top. As clearly Mr. Khan has mentioned, unfortunately, of the entire square, only a half has survived.
The right half. If I'm right,
Correct.
it's the right half.
Correct. And if you consider, we don't know what has happened to the other half. Okay, possibly
The wife took it away.
Possibly the time the wife took it away.
And they had divorce, and he had to split half, so even the Mandarin Square.
And the judge decided this has to go to the wife and this has to go to the gentleman. So when we look at the base, interestingly, we see clouds. And not only we see the clouds at the base, but we also see the clouds on top.
Yes.
What is interesting that these clouds are rendered with, as the overall Mandarin Square, with threads. And those were silk threads. So silk threads on a silk textile.
It must have belonged to someone important enough to use so much silk and rendering.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're just a normal soldier or a normal official,
you would not have...
They would not have wasted so much material on that.
Not at all. And then what we would see that these clouds, if you come, and when you come, please look with attention, it has 3 different shades of colors.
Yes.
And this is an auspicious symbol. So the overall Mandarin Square is basically, has basically clouds at the bottom and at the top. Now, when I examine closely the bottom, I can also see mountains.
Yes.
I can see waves.
Yes.
I can see some important Buddhist symbols as the endless knot. I can see the vase of plenty, and I can also admire a lotus. And what does the lotus of all these three symbols means? I will just pick up one, because I feel this is the most important one. The lotus is referred to masculinity. It's yes. It's also referred to God, good fortune. And it's also a symbol of love and affection.
Right.
All contained in one symbol. And it speaks at least of 4 different meanings. That's what I found very beautiful. When you see the writing of a Western, it can be summarized with just few strokes by the Chinese. That's the power that they have. The synthesis, I would call it, and it's represented here through the design, the same language of the calligraphy, if you wish. I beg your pardon if I've put the two things together, but this is my view of this piece and reference to other objects that we will have and discuss tonight and share with you.
Sorry, so the 3 colors you're talking about is mainly bluish, reddish, and yellowish.
Correct.
It's exactly the same as the painting next, the calligraphy next to it.
But it's not a case that these 2 items breathe the same air.
I must tell you that because I was rushing just now,
yes,
that this calligraphy was just randomly chosen to be presented
can I
tonight.
say, can I say, Mr. Khan, I never think that what happens by a chance. I always think there's an energy in each piece that will in some way reflect, respond, talk to another object. That's my viewing, my view, and this is what I think. That's the reason why these 2 pieces, although of different eras, they have something in common.
And 100% for sure, what I know is that you cannot take the Mandarin Square, 这个官服的这个卜卦 back home. No, it will stay in the gallery because I'm not selling that. But weirdly, as Mr. Pino has pointed out, not only does the calligraphy share the same color tones, it's also quite squarish if you look at it. Look at it, it's quite squarish. So actually you can bring that home, and I'll come to what the words mean and why it connects so much with this 卜卦 today.
Okay, let me just focus on few more elements here. What I would like to highlight is that as we move towards the right hand, my right hand,
yep.
Okay, I can actually see a lion.
That's the important thing, right?
And that is the important thing. Look at the execution of the lion. The lion is perched on a stone. Okay.
May I point that out to them?
Yes,
please. We can see the head of the lion here.
The head of the lion.
The head of the lion. It's over here. Can you capture that? Yeah. This is the head of the lion. We see all the clouds already here.
Yes.
The different symbols of Buddhism, yes. And then we see a lion right over here. Right. Probably, I think, Mr. Pino, you have to stand just more inwards so that that camera can capture. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. The lion head is right here. This is the lion head. This is the lion head. You know, if it was really that what was left, half of it, he got a better part of the alimony here. Absolutely. Because you can imagine then the other half will have the lion's butt.
Yes.
Or the body, which without the head, you can't decipher what it is. This is the lion's head, my friend. This is the one that will tell us how important this thing is. The rest of the things, like, you know, this is soul, this is bad, all this, it means prosperity, it means that you will rise up your rank fast, the kind of thing. But this thing over here, this lion, it's the everything that matters. It's the one, if I'm right, it would determine the value of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. But let me also add few more little things.
Yes.
Again, it's a small piece, okay? But it's extremely important. And when you see the way the head has been embroidered, everything is super clear. You can see the big mouth in red, you can see the tongue, you can see the teeth, You can see the bulging eyes. But what I would like to stress that just over his feet, the lion has what appears to be like fire.
Yeah.
And the fire has an important significance, is to recognize the prestige and the importance of the figure, and therefore of the lion.
Right.
Now, why the lion?
I think that's the important question, right? Because you mentioned, Mr. Pino mentioned that for civil officer Wen Guan, it's all birds, cranes. I'm guessing cranes.
Correct.
I don't think anyone will take phoenix because it represents the queen.
Yes.
喜鹊, whatever stuff there is. If it's beast, then 它是武官. So now with this, we're trying to guess okay, all Singaporean men, we have gone to army. We look at the thing, we know how high ranking this person is.
Yes.
But in Qing Dynasty, they tend to be a bit more elusive and more artistic about it. So we have to decipher what this lion means.
Now, we're talking about military. Now, at one point in time in the Qing Dynasty, 17th century, the lion was the #1 ranking.
Oh.
It was the #1. Eventually, however, a mythological figure took the place of #1, and the lion became #2. So we are talking maybe a comparison between a general of the highest level versus a general of the slightly lower level. And this is what it would be. It's a general.
Which means that this is the second ranking.
This is the second ranking.
Which
Perfect.
means, my dear friends, what's going on tonight is that we have in our presence this piece, as Mr. Pino has mentioned, because it's a lion and it comes from that particular era, it belongs to a martial officer, a general, a wu guan, that is in Qing Dynasty, or in Chinese terms, we call it 二品官. As in 2.
Yes.
二品官. We know that 一品官 is the biggest. There are 9 ranks in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this belongs to 二品官. Do you know how important that is? Extremely important. Because 九品官, they have a saying, it's called 九品芝麻官. That means that if you're the 9th rank, you are like sesame seeds. It's just like everywhere.
Yes.
Then it goes up. So 二品官 is extremely important. This is a rank, this is a badge of a 二品官, martial officer, general. If I'm right, 二品官 back in Qing Dynasty at that time, it's quite equivalent to what we have today in Singapore's terms. At least a CO, at least a commanding officer.
Yes.
At least, yeah.
But in the collection of Master Yun, there's nothing which is casual. I mean, you imagine, one would say, but why one has collected half? It's irrelevant if it's half or it's total.
I'm glad that we have the better half, yeah.
It's the quality.
It is the quality, definitely.
It's just the quality. Now, in all of this, one thing that could not be missed, and that is the sun. And the sun is represented with 2 beautiful colors.
Yeah.
The orange, the red, and the contour is beige. And this sun is amongst the clouds. And it gives light not only to the ranking, but it gives light to the entire badge. It's the point, it's the focus together with the lion.
So mention, you look at the lion, it's actually looking at the sun.
Yes.
It's actually paying respect to the sun. This is lion's head again, this is the sun. We call it, it's a very Chinese thing, we call it 朝阳. That means you are paying homage to the sun. And usually the sun would represent the emperor.
I see.
So this is a homage that you are a second ranking officer, you are a commanding officer, 二品官, and there you have the emperor.
The emperor.
Don't forget, it's the emperor who gives you this position. Yeah.
Not only. And the clouds around are reminiscent not only of the sky, but of the heavens.
Yes.
And therefore, we would see that the emperor is in the heavens.
Right.
And therefore, the position of the head of the lion is directly pointing at the sun. a recognition of the importance of the emperor versus his own position.
That's what they
is
say,
important.
because the emperors back in Qing Dynasty or in history of China, they're called the sons of heavens.
Yes.
Sons of heavens, they were chosen by heaven anyway. So this is the Mandarin square. As Mr. Pino has mentioned, the tricolor is the basic.
Yes.
And if we manage to get a scene of this whole thing, is that you see that the painting that Master Yin has today, this squarish one, this squarish calligraphy. Anyway, this also just came back from England as well.
Right.
That's why it's an excellent price, 33,000. If you don't get it, I don't know what to do with you. Yeah, squarish, same colors, yellow, bluish, reddish, but the words are, you can't guess what the words are. It's so appropriate for today. I mean, yeah, of course, can't get the words. The words, it reads, 圣鹤为王. The victorious crane is crowned king. The victorious crane is crowned king. It's absolutely 100% apt for a martial officer, because if you go out to have battles, you want to be victorious. If you want to stay on in the road of bureaucracy, you want to be victorious. And it's great. It's victorious crane is crowned king, and even in this context, it matches because there's only one emperor, but there can be a lot of lords and kings. So you want to be the victorious ones among all your colleagues. You want to be the victorious ones among all your business rivals or competitors and be crowned king. Can you imagine that you can't have this Mandarin square on you, but you can have this feng shui calligraphy with you and be the victorious crane of all of them? We're just talking about the crane might be the civil officer.
Yes.
There you have it. There you have it. Strange coincidence. They could have taken any other one, but they took this one. Yep.
So it's a coincidence that has a very deep and profound meaning. Finally, we see the half, and it's perfect. It's not been torn, this piece of wonderful silk.
Yes.
So imagine in those days there was a surcoat, and it had a front opening. So the two pieces of the Mandarin square would have been stitched here in the front. In the back, it used to have a complete square piece that would go right here.
Right. So the ranking badge was in the front and the back.
Absolutely. And you won't believe it, also the wife would have something similar, but the only difference is that the position of the creature, of the animal, would be opposite the one of the husband.
Of course.
So that was the only element that would distinguish the badge of a man versus the wife.
Right.
And the children would also have the same badge of the father. So that's exactly what used to happen.
So you will know who you're dealing with. Huh?
You know what you're dealing with. You know what you're dealing with.
So, it's great to have the badge at the back as well, because don't anyhow go and tap anyone's shoulder. It might be a second rank. It might be a 二品官. Yeah, don't anyhow do anything stupid back then. Yeah, I see.
So
this is stunning. This is
a
great.
little piece of beautiful manufacture against a piece of art.
The size is so weirdly, the size is pretty much the same. Look at this. It's pretty much the same. This could have been a Mandarin square. This could have been a Mandarin square. Exactly about the same.
Amazing.
Never thought about that. Yeah.
Amazing. And again, the combination of the colors and the subtle use of the color. I mean, we're talking about a piece of over 200 years.
Yes.
And here is a contemporary piece who has been seen in the University College of Birmingham in UK.
That's right. And only now, it's still at 33,868. Once about 11 days later, when we go into our anniversary, 18th of June, and after this, if this piece is still available, the price will go up. So if I'm right, probably about 58,000.
Very beautiful.
So we have this. So we have this that is for the. This gets me very excited already. Sets the stage for the next one. It's crazy. This is the one that is about the Wuguan, the Mandarin Square, Qing Dynasty. We have something that is Qing Dynasty as well, that is actually what we talked about. We start the show with. It's about it's from Li Hongzhang, this viceroy, prime minister, minister of foreign affairs, whatever they call it, because it's difficult to actually define whether he is he a civil officer, like is he a 文官, or is he a 武官? It's difficult to define because he held so many positions, so many. Am I right? Yeah. So let's take a look at this one over here, shall we? This is the one that we have. Okay. Now you can finally see, if you manage to take a closer look at here. This is Li Hongzhang. Can you see it? Once again, we have a signage. There we have a signage, but as a Chinese, the most interesting thing, or the most intriguing thing, was his name. Because he means something in Chinese history. What I can guess, and what I've been studied, is that this calligraphy, from the big words Ankang all the way to this, which we'll explain in a short while, it's indeed written by Li Hongzhang.
Okay.
After that, probably the signage was done. So, what is the age of this signage that we have here?
It would be a Qing period signage. I would say over 100 years, definitely over 100 years. And again, from a Western eye, when I look at it, I see this wonderful play of words, which I don't understand, but the way that they have been sculpted is just amazing. I mean, for me, this is a garden of flowers, and each flower has its own smell, its own fragrance, and its own beauty. And of course, the significance, again, which I don't know, must be very deep. And the overall, extremely poetic and interesting. Maybe a piece of work, beautiful, which would hang in a family hall, and it would be the pride of the family to show it to the guest who would come.
But then they will go back to the words and what it means. Of course, once again, I'm super intrigued because it's by Li Hongzhang, this guy. And you mentioned Qing Dynasty. I just got one note here. Li Hongzhang was born in 1823, and he passed on in 1901.
Yes.
Which is the year that Queen Victoria passed on as well.
Yes.
Right. And anyway, Queen Victoria and Li Hongzhang had something going on. They knew each other as well.
They knew each other very well.
So this would probably have been carved during Li Hongzhang's time.
Mm-hmm.
After, when he wrote this calligraphy, somehow then they managed to carve it into a signboard.
Yes.
And finally, my friends, because this is a Chinese thing, I think you all can read this as well as I do if I decipher the words. We see that this is his name, Li Hongzhang. These are his signs. His name and his what we call a by name. It's called Shao Quan. That is like what people who know him better would call him.
Okay.
So this is definitely 100% by him. And the calligraphy I've checked, that I've matched with his other calligraphies. This is how he writes. So this is his name. These are his signage. His calligraphy is known for the strokes to be a bit thicker, but the structure to be slimmer. So it's a very Chinese art thing. So, but this is his writing. Let's decipher the words, shall we?
Yes.
And we will know what it means and why it's so significant, because Li Hongzhang is such a controversial person. First, these two big words, we have to read it on the other side. It reads Ankang. That means that it means, let's say, Ankang. How do I directly translate? Because it's so difficult to translate Chinese into English. It's like harmony,
yes,
peace, and health. So it means harmony, and it means a bit of prosperity, things going on. Okay, when you speak Ankang to Chinese people, they will just get it. But to translate it, it might be a bit more difficult. peace, prosperity, harmony. That's the meaning of Ankang. So this passage over here is in the form of it's like sort of like a poem.
Yes.
But it's not exactly a poem. It's more like a passage or a reminder. If I might read it in Chinese first,
Yes.
the full thing.
Yes, please.
Then I will try to explain sentence by sentence what it
Yes.
means by English. And then after saying that, then all of us, I suppose you as well, will have guessed where this thing should be.
Placed.
Who is it for? Where is it placed? So let's talk about the whole passage. Are we looking at this correctly? Yeah. So Ankang, so that's the main theme.
Yes.
They have peace and they have prosperity. It reads 郁寡精神爽，思多血气衰，少饮不乱性，忍气免伤财，贵自情中得，富从脸里来。
How beautiful the sound.
Yeah, that was actually terrible. Yeah, it could have been better. Yeah.
But
If we
still.
translate it, it sounds very. It's like more like a guide to have a peace and harmonious living.
Yes.
And it actually means a lot when it comes from Li Hongzhang, this person. And I'll explain why also. The first, you to break it down into 5 words. Every 5 characters is one part.
Okay.
So 郁寡精神爽. So it stops here.
Right.
So this is the second line. Then the third line and fourth line, and so
I
on.
see.
So 郁寡精神爽, that means that desire, if you have less desires, your
Yes.
spirit is more, so difficult to translate into English. Your spirit is more alert, or your spirit is more at ease,
Right.
not burdened. So if your desires are lesser, then your spirits are less burdened. 思多血气衰. 思多, that means if you overthink matters, then you're going to have bad health.
Yes.
Okay, so don't overthink, yeah. Just do it, yeah. 少饮不乱性. Okay, drink but not too much so that you don't lose control.
Right.
Okay, good reminder, yeah. 忍气免伤财. So don't get angry about a lot of things. If not, your wealth will go away. So you see, health and wealth comes together. It's just a left and right thing.
Yes.
So the first statement, the right, 血气, 少饮不乱性. It's about health. You lose control. Then I talk about wealth. So it's very balanced, you see. So you have to don't lose temper too easily. If not, your wealth will go away. And then now there's a statement here that teach you how to have high position. Hopefully you can be 二品官, and at the same time how you can reach 贵自情中得. 贵 means in Chinese, now we say that it's expensive, but in the past, 贵 means status. If you want to have high status, you need to be hardworking.
Hardworking.
情 means hardworking. Yeah. And 富从脸里来. 简 富 means prosperity. You will have prosperity if you are frugal enough.
Right.
Or you spend on the right things. So you'll be prosperous. You're prosperous if you spend on the right things, or if you're frugal enough. So the whole thing, it's quite a motivational speech.
Very interesting.
By our dear friend Li Hongzhang here. Friends who, how do I say it, who are familiar with Qing history will know that Li Hongzhang presided over many Qing dynasty emperors. So many that I lose count. He was one of the 4 main officials of the late Qing Empire. I can only say that when he was around, Qing Empire was around. When he died in 1901, it took only 11 years for the empire to collapse. So he did many things. A lot of people would deem it as controversial nowadays, but my personal take is that he did what he can in those times to save the empire, to save the people, to save the royal family. So there we have this gentleman. What we know today about Chinese and British and the rest of the European powers, he has a hand in this. Why was Hong Kong ceded to the UK, to the British Empire? He signed the treaty. Why did China have wars with Russia? He signed the treaty. Why did China have this thing with different European powers? he signed the treaty. He was the guy who actually did all this thing and bear the name and responsibility of the entire Qing Empire. And this passage, just to be clear, these words did not come from Li Hongzhang. As he is written, this calligraphy is written by him, but he didn't invent these words. This is not, the Chinese have this thing. They would like to write the words of predecessors.
I see.
Yeah, it's like showing respect and all this stuff. So, I mean, you see, when you go on in Western tradition, no one would paint a same painting as what someone else did.
Yes.
Yeah, you will do your own stuff, right?
Yes.
No one would copy a Shakespeare sonnet. That's ridiculous, yeah. You know, you come up with your own poem. But the Chinese, they are different. They would like to write things that has been written before in their own calligraphy way. So the calligraphy was a pure art thing going on. There's a huge saying about this paragraph where it came from. One school of thought says that it comes from Tang Dynasty, the second emperor of Tang Dynasty, Tang Taizong, the one who nearly actually sort of like started Tang Empire. The other school of thought says that this passage actually came from Li Hongzhang's mentor, who was also one of the very, very super important officials of the late Qing Empire, Zheng Guofan. He's the one who stopped the Taiping Rebellion and so on. So it might have came from Zheng Guofan, and Li Hongzhang was his student.
Right.
So he wrote what the mentor actually taught him before. So this is the whole thing. And we know that actually this guy called Zheng Guofan, because this guy is clearly, he's a general, he's a soldier, and he lives a very regimented life. He has like 10 rules about what his life is supposed to be and that kind of thing. So it sounds like this will be something that will come from him. And when Li Hongzhang was young, he was under the camp of Zheng Guofan, his mentor. And he was without discipline back then. So Zheng Guofan actually commented about him and said that, you have no discipline. You have great courage, but you have no discipline. So eventually Li Hongzhang actually changed his attitude, and probably this was the reminder. It could have served as a reminder to himself, or it could have served as a reminder to his descendants, to how to have a life of peace and prosperity, and a harmonious life of peace and prosperity. Probably these are the things that they should be reminded of. So it's quite a significant thing. I have a feel that it might have been for its own family to remind themselves.
How deep? How deep? Every word that you've translated has such an effect and such a power. And when I think that he has possibly written the words of his master, it's also a recognition.
It's definitely a recognition.
I mean,
because without Zheng Guofan, without his mentor, he would never be recognized. And together ranking with his mentor, Zheng Guofan, and two other guys, Zhang Zidong and Zhou Zhongtang, these four people, they were the four main officials of the late Qing Empire. Without the four of them, the empire would have collapsed 100 years earlier.
Amazing. I really like the concept of the recognition of somebody who has transferred knowledge.
Yes.
Today there would be a competition. Instead, in those days, in spite of the fact that this genius in many ways reached the top position and he was really an important figure, he still gave respect and appreciation
100%.
To his master.
100%. Of the four of them, these four main officials, the fortunate or the unfortunate thing was that, if I'm right, Li Hongzhang was the last to pass away. His mentor and his colleagues passed on in the late 19th century. He passed on in 1901.
Right.
And as I mentioned, 11 years later, the Qing Empire just got
collapsed.
So regardless of good or bad that he did, whatever he did was what he wanted to do at the time. And to the best of his abilities, the strength was that he at least held the empire together. And we are not looking into politics today, but we are looking into the strength of this man and his character building. And he has this left this message behind for all of us. immortalized because it's no longer just a calligraphy on paper, it's actually inscribed on a wooden signboard. That's really something. So the words that we write, the Chinese, there are a lot of things are really about the words. Shall we take a seat?
Yes.
It's really about the words. And the words mean many things. And I suppose that would be also the thing about Master Yun's calligraphies as well. He writes something and it's a reminder to his descendants of how to behave. You know, if you want to be high in status, you got to be hardworking. If you want to be, have control, you should control your drinking and so on. So it's been immortalized as a reminder. So the same thing is with Master Yun's calligraphy, that a lot of us, we actually need reminders about all these matters. The calligraphy that's next to you, the one that is next to the Mandarin Square, it reads 圣鹤为王. As I mentioned, that the victorious crane is crowned king. So it's another great reminder as well to all of us. You got to achieve that victory. And like a crane, you got to have the longevity of the power and the energy, and therefore you can be the victor. You can be the winner. If not, nowadays people are very entitled. They think that they should win, but why? That would be a good reminder to all of us. What Li Hongzhang, this great guy, wrote for the family or for himself to remind himself, we also have Master Yun's calligraphy to remind all of us today as well.
Wonderful figure. Controversial maybe, but
Yeah.
Wonderful figure.
It's unfortunate that in the spectrum of our time, we might not have the full capacity to decipher Li Hongzhang, and it's not our purpose to actually decipher who he is and all this stuff as well, because you can always read it on Google and internet. But he's really that guy that has actually done a lot, and for the Han person to reach such a high standing position in. He's both civil officer, he's also a general, he's also a statesman, he's also a diplomat, but he has reminders for all of us, for his family, for himself, and that's on the signage behind me. Maybe I should hang it somewhere so I can drink less, yeah.
It's not about drinking less. It's about drinking the right amount.
Right amount, yeah. So that's the thing. Cheers. And maybe drinking the right alcohol as well, yeah. Yeah, don't drink the lousy ones, you will get sick out of that. So this is interesting. I'm not sure whether you have a chance to actually hang this in the gallery.
Would be lovely.
Would be lovely. Would be a good reminder of greatness that came before us. Whether you like him or not, he was a great guy, for sure. He did what he can. And I want to share with Mr. Pino that I really think that this was carved in his time. Because, as I mentioned, such a controversial figure, when Sun Yat-sen took over in 1911, 1912, even in the People's Republic of China that was established in 1949, the current regime, it's difficult for them to describe him. So probably it couldn't have been made later than that. No one in the right mind would take out his calligraphy again and say that, okay, let's make it into a signboard like what?
Right.
Yeah, and once again, these words were not by him. So anyone could have just rewritten the entire thing and take it as his own. So I just very much suspect or guess that it was done during when Li Hongzhang was still alive. And this might have been hanged in one of his study room, or one of his descendants' room, or a distant relatives, and so on. To remind you that it was either Li Hongzhang reminding himself of this, or he's reminding his descendants, or his far-flung relatives are using, okay, no, this is a great guy in my family, let's remind ourselves of this thing. This is my take, yeah.
There's one thing, I read a little about this exceptional person, that's the way I feel. And one thing that is really stuck into my head is a phrase that he pronounced just before he died. And I will just read it to you, it's in English. To know me and judge me is a task for the next millennium. He was absolutely aware to possibly be considered a controversial figure. And he didn't say the next 100 years. He spoke about the next millennium. So
Yes.
history owes him a review and a new consideration of what he did, which he could do, and it was not easy for him. Very, very complicated.
The statement in Chinese, know me and judge me is a task for next millennial. The statement for Chinese, it reads, it feels like what he was saying, you know. 知我罪我父之千载. That means that those who know me and or who punish me or judge me, let's say, would have to be 1,000 years later.
Yes.
Yeah, well, 1,000, which next millennial probably. Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole thing. It's wonderful that we actually have this signage here to remind us of the once existence of this great figure and the great things that's been done for the entire empire. I don't even know what to say because he's too humongous, he's too grand, he's too great to actually to put in the few words. What we are seeing is just that aspect of him. It's about him and his family, him and his own lifestyle, him as like, if you have a chance to actually interview him, Li Hongzhang, you know, nowadays you go on YouTube, a lot of people are saying this kind of things. What are your rules of success? What are your 5 rules of success? And he might be telling you that, you know, this is, I'm going to write something for you. This is the way how I did it.
Virtues. One more thing that I would like to add is that he had his own biographer, William J. Hale.
American.
Yes. And he argued that Li did perhaps all he could for a land where the conservatism of people and reactionary officialdom and unrestrained international rivalry made each step forward a matter of great difficulty, and praised him as always progressive, yet patient and conciliatory. It was his fate to bear blame for failures, which might have been avoided if he had had his way.
He did the best he could in those scenarios. Yeah. Well.
Very interesting figure.
Clients of Lotus Water must Jenny, Shannon, Ng Chin Hong, Madam Lai. We must feel very fortunate that we are in the presence of these 2 great antiques. 二品官五官的一个卜卦 the badge and the signage, of course not carved by Li Hongzhang himself, but the signage is left behind of his calligraphy, Li Hongzhang's calligraphy, which is no less than stunning, really. We'll keep this in the gallery for a while so people can come here and admire. And from that, you might be able to understand better why Master Yun does fengshui calligraphy. Why the Chinese, we are so obsessed with words and calligraphy. What kind of signs and what kind of hints and what kind of messages does it give to ourselves and the people, our descendants, and the next generations, and the next era, or even the next 1,000 years, and so forth. Yeah, this is really something. This is really something. We should ask the question. And at the same time to choose the winners from last week. We know that calligraphy is extremely important. If not, Li Hongzhang and Ling Lingxu from last week, they would not spend their efforts to go and write all this stuff, right? So it's extremely important. We know that you cannot take this Mandarin square back home, but we know that actually the calligraphy next to it that has been to England, it's a great modern rendition of what's going on, to what it means to have status, to what it means to have a reminder to our descendants, to ourselves especially, on what we should do. The question is very simple. This calligraphy, as Mr. Pino has mentioned, it was exhibited in the University College of Birmingham, where Chef Daniel graduated anyway. There are 4 words on it. What are the 4 words? It's 4 words, it's not 4 numbers. 4 numbers is for tomorrow. Yeah. What are the 4 words? The 4 words are extremely connected to what we are talking about today, right? What are the 4 words? 4 Chinese words. If you can put it in the English translation, I will take it as well, yeah. Because I was talking about the English translation just now. So if you know what are the 4 words, put it into the comment section of this calligraphy. Because Master Yun's words, you know, he has 卵音鹤性, he has he so, all this other stuff. But these 4 words, it really means that how you can be a victor, how you can be a winner in life, okay, in whatever you do. And I suppose that if anyone strikes out to do something, they want to be a winner. So what are these exact 4 words that Master Yun has written? Currently, this calligraphy is at 33,868. If you wait another 12 days, apologies, it will go up to 58,000 and it's not coming back ever again. This calligraphy has the same foundation colors as the Mandarin Square, the 卜卦, same foundation colors, green, yellowish, bluish, reddish. You can't take the Mandarin Square home, but you can have Master Yun's feng shui art. I know that I was telling you just now. Strangely, the size is about the same.
But there's so many beautiful connections between the two.
Yep.
I mean, even from an aesthetical point of view, it's just like a beautiful combination which has been made on purpose.
Yes. So if you know what are the 4 words, write down in the comments. It's one of a common series. It's one of favorite series as well. So just let us know. Yep, we have several answers here. It's really about how to be a winner in your life. Right, so let us choose 3 of them. Let's see who's the winner for tonight. Okay, let's see. Number 1. We have, Tong Chi Hong again. Congratulations, yeah. Second one, Tong Chi Hong, number 1. Second one would be Jervis Chua. Jervis Chua, I think it's son of my client. Jervis Chua.
Congratulations, Jervis. Congratulations.
And the 3rd person would be, let's see. This is someone's son. I forgot whose son is this. Everyone has someone's son. Roy Tan. Roy Tan Jun. Roy Tan Junyi. Congratulations. Oops, yeah. Roy Tan, Jervis Chua, and Tong Chi Hong. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
On winning. We were asking about what is the calligraphy and what it writes. Please answer in the comments. Next week, are we going to stay in Qing Dynasty? Are we going to time leap? Are we going to time jump? Are we going to space jump or what? Yeah.
Let's leave it to the chance that you pick up this wonderful calligraphy. Let's leave it
right.
To the forces of life.
Might be Qing. I don't know, because Qing Dynasty is a long existing era with a lot of things to talk about it. Let's take a look about it, okay? Thank you very much for joining us tonight. It's my absolute honor to talk about Li Hongzhang's calligraphy, really. Cheers.
Fantastic.
I'll see you next week.